Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. We are coming to you live from CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Green Lum Laminates. Now, the refrain that standards of parliamentary functioning have taken a beating in recent years is not without merit. Because today, both houses of parliament failed to function, leading to adjournments. In the Lok Sabha, opposition members tried to raise the Gautam Adani issue and the farmers' protest, leading to more adjournments. The opposition MPs had earlier protested over the Adani matter. The billionaire is facing bribery charges in a US court on the parliament premises, with MPs of the Trinamool Congress and Samajwadi Party, in fact, skipping the agitation. Everybody's asking why did they choose to do so. The Rajya Sabha too saw disruptions and adjournments as MPs from the Treasury benches demanded a discussion on the alleged links between the Congress party and Hungarian-American billionaire, philanthropist and investor George Soros. The opposition has raised crony capitalism and government hitting back by raising the Congress-Soros link. It seems like we are heading towards another washout. Meanwhile, the rift within India bloc is widening by the day. While the Congress still believes that Rahul Gandhi is capable of leading the opposition bloc, Trinamool Congress, NCP, SP, even Uddhav Sena and of course, as we highlighted, Samajwadi Party have now backed Mamata Banerjee on the leader pitch. So from the tussle over leadership to the lack of a common strategy in the parliament, the fissures within the opposition bloc are out in the open yet again. Not surprising, but it is the frequency of it which is. Interestingly, the opposition is yet again all set to move a no-confidence motion against Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar. Many are now asking if opposition protests and what critics of the ruling party label as BJP's vindictiveness have exacerbated the fall in parliamentary standards. So as the Soros Showdown peaks, we ask the big question, who's winning the war of narratives?
Let me give precedence to the win. अपनी बात रखिए। संजय सुनिए, दूसरों को उपदेश दे रहे हैं। हमारा पार्टी को आप बात बढ़ाने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है। सदन की कार्रवाई 12 बजे तक के लिए स्थगित की जाती है। This is all part of a game plan.
Soros and his foundation. It is not only George Soros. George Soros and many other elements who are working against India are to be countered unitedly by every citizen of India.
गद्दारी करते हैं, एजेंट करके काम करते हैं। जिस तरीके से जॉर्ज सोरोस के साथ सामने आता है वो बहुत ही चिंताजनक है। सर, जो लीडर ऑफ द हाउस बोले उन्होंने जो बोले वो सरासर झूठ है।
I'm so impressed that BJP takes so much effort to create a false narrative. They pick and choose the narrative they want. They will pick up an OCCRP report, but they will ignore the World Hunger Index. They will ignore the World Press Freedom Index.
All right, introducing our esteemed panelists today. I am joined in by the national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Mr. Shehzad Poonawala, Salman Soz, who is the spokesperson for the Congress Party, Professor Manojit Mandal, who is a political analyst, and Mr. Sheikh, who is a political analyst as well. Many thanks to you, gentlemen, for joining in. Mr. Soz, my first question is for you, and before I do that, in fact, I'd like to share some data with you. It's a fact that Mr. Gautam Adani entered the Forbes 40 richest Indians list in 2007. Adani Port's initial public offering, which was the IPO, was oversubscribed 116 times in 2007. That also indicates a strong investor confidence back then. Adani Power's IPO was subscribed 21 times in 2009, again showcases positive sentiment towards the group. The overseas investment after 2004 was significantly boosted, and that also led to a boost for the company's value. They've also acquired coal mines in Indonesia in the year 2008. They purchased coal mines in Australia in the year 2010. Now, who's responsible for propping up Adani is my question after all the data that I've gathered.
I think what you have to really ask yourself is, you have some data. I will share some data with you too. And
Right, go ahead, sure.
Yeah, there's plenty of data out here. Mr. Adani's companies today, and you should be concerned about this, you're a citizen of India. 43% of all shipping containers in this country are handled by Mr. Adani's companies. 43%, it's not a joke. If you people are really love India, you have to think about the concentration of economic wealth in this country. A third of all coal transported in India is handled by Mr. Adani. 22% of thermal power capacity is with Mr. Adani's companies. The largest number of solar and wind plants in the country are with Mr. Adani. 51% of India's private electricity transmission. Private electricity transmission, 51%. If you people truly love your country, you will be concerned about the kind of market concentration that's happening in this country. And by the way, that is not all. You know, we've been raising issues about Mr. Adani's, closeness to the Prime Minister for years now.
Who was he close to in 2007 when he was listed as the 40 richest Indian by Forbes? Who was he close to? Clearly, you've not heard or acknowledged any of the data I've shared, Mr. Soros.
Yes, even then.
How was the IPO oversubscribed 116 times in 2007 when it was the UPA regime? How was Adani Power's IPO subscribed 21 times in 2009? How were the tripartite investment deals with Indonesia, coal mines in Australia?
Let me answer.
How?
No, but now you raised your voice.
You were raising your facts and I let you do so, but you clearly overlooked the facts that I shared. You didn't even bother to acknowledge them, Mr. Soros.
I think, Mr. You're an Ambani channel. You should at least let me talk about Mr. Adani.
Wow.
You have to understand that Mr. Adani has close links to Mr. Modi since his time in Gujarat, long time back. But what I'm saying now is, where are we today? Did Mr. Adani handle?
We're talking about facts.
All shipping containers?
Let's
Did he handle? I'm asking you a question. If you have data, why don't you then refute data with data? Did Mr. Adani's companies handle 43% of all shipping containers in the country in 2007? Do you have that data? Can you say yes? You cannot say yes. I know you cannot, because that was not the case. Can you say?
You know why I'll not say yes, Mr. Soros? I'll tell you why I'll not say yes. Because I'm not the BJP spokesperson, and I'm very fortunate to have the BJP spokesperson over here. Shahzad Poonawala, time you enter into the discussion.
You're asking questions.
I've given you 5 minutes, Mr. Soros. Shahzad Poonawala, please answer the question that Mr. Soros has presented. He's presented some facts. Let's acknowledge those facts. Shahzad Poonawala.
Well, I want to begin by taking the facts that Mr. Salman Soros has quoted and ask him a question based on that. Considering all that he has put in front of you, by his logic, Adani is a corrupt and somebody who is anti-national. Then I want to ask very clearly that why has Mr. Adani been given any kind of work in Telangana where he is investing 12,000 crores? I want to ask him that why was he given 25,000 crores investment opportunity in Chhattisgarh when Bhupesh Baghel was there? Why was he given solar power plant project in Rajasthan when Mr. Ashok Gehlot was there? Why was in the last 3-4 days the Viranium Port supplementary agreement extended where it has been signed by Pinarayi Vijayan, who's part of the India Alliance? And why in Jharkhand, which is ruled by JMM and Congress, the Godda power plant is being run by Mr. Adani? They should walk the talk and cancel all these projects first, because Mr. Salman Soros has already declared that he is a corrupt man and he has worked against the national interest. And having said that, Mr. Salman Soros, I hope rather than getting angry at the anchor, you would answer this question, that here is Mr. Sharad Pawar, not Akanksha Swaroop, not some channel that you label as A channel, B channel, Sharad Pawar on Hindenburg report. Hindenburg's Adani report seems to be targeted. So this means that by this logic that Sharad Pawar is on the payrolls of Mr. Adani. Now I want to ask that is also the Samajwadi Party and Trinamool Congress on the payroll of Mr. Adani? Because when Congress has been trying to raise this issue in Parliament, TMC, and I quote Mr. Shamik Bhattacharya, says that this is not the agenda or issue and Congress is actually destroying democracy's decorum by raising this issue again and again. I want to quote Samajwadi Party, who says that Sambal is bigger issue for us, not this Adani Vadani. So I want to ask Mr. Mr. Salman Soros that why so many people who are giving projects to Mr. Adani or are not interested in the Adani issue with
Right.
you should break ties with them and cancel the projects. But having said that, I'll tell you why they are bringing this issue. And just last 20 seconds, Akanksha, and I will take that liberty because I have not made any kind of aspersions on the channel or on your journalism. Look, this is the reason. You know, today there was a issue of Soros and Mr. Rahul Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi and their connection. And I want to ask certain very pointed questions because Mr. Salman Soros is the national spokesperson of the Congress party. Salman Soros ji, please answer that is Ms. Sonia Gandhi or was Ms. Sonia Gandhi co-president of FDL-AP, Forum for Democracy Leaders AP, which was funded by Soros, but forget the issue of funding by Soros. That had one agenda of Azad Kashmir being a panacea for peace between India and Pakistan. Do you agree with it? Did Sonia Gandhi accept this or reject this? It has a part where it has been eulogizing Shabbir Shah, who's currently in jail, who's a separatist anti-India element. Do you endorse it? Does Sonia Gandhi endorse it? Did she take a stand against it? And thirdly, I want to ask you that why is it that Mr. Soros has so many links with the Congress party and the same Soros has openly said that he wants to spend $1 billion to interfere with our democracy, and you have people like Rahul Gandhi quoting out of his reports as if it is gospel.
All
you
right.
have Mr. Praveen
All right.
Chakravarti lapping him up. You have
Shahzad,
Shashi Tharoor
thank
says
you
it's
for
an
raising
old
those
friend.
questions.
Now please
I
answer on
was
this.
hoping to do that, but the big talk of the day, Salman Soros, has also been that by the funding of FDL-AP, clearly an indication that it is one publication that's also backing an independent Kashmir. Is that also the view of the Congress party?
So Akanksha, if you will give me just
Please, go ahead.
10, 15 seconds, let me just speak to the viewers of the show. You must have seen how the Congress spokesperson spoke and how the BJP spokesperson spoke. The BJP spokesperson spoke totally uninterrupted. Meanwhile, the Congress spokesperson was interrupted multiple times because this is a game. This is a game in which private interests are trying to take over this country, and this is all.
Now let's get down to facts.
But
We
let
can't
me ask
have
you this,
allegations,
Akanksha.
counter
Why
allegations.
did
Let's
you
get
not-
down to
why did
facts,
you not- why
questions.
did you not
I want to know about
why did you not
FDL-AP.
once interrupt Shahzad Poonawalla? Why did you not ask him one question about the data
I am
that
going
put
to
forward? Now
show
let
some
me- now let
patience.
me- now
Show
let
some
me- now let-
patience. Please
now
tell
let
me what is
let
the
me tell you
connection
now.
between the Congress party,
Let
Sonia
me tell
Gandhi
you,
and
I will tell you,
FDL-AP?
I will tell
Please
you,
tell
I
me
will
about
tell you
that.
the connection here.
Yes.
I will tell you. I know you get very excited about these things, but let me tell you. I'm not going to dignify Shahzad Poonawalla's comments about Sonia ji. I'm not going to start asking about ministers in this government whose children may be funded by George Soros companies. Okay, I'm not going to talk about those ministers or their children because that is not the issue here. The issue here is, for example, you should be asking the BJP spokesperson, how dare BJP raise allegations, serious allegations about one of our most critical allies, the United States, the same ally with which we have a $35 billion trade surplus, and they never say anything against China, against which we have a trade deficit of $85 billion. Are they placing private interests above the national interest? Are they placing the private interests of Mr. Adani and Mr. Modi above the national interest? That is the real question.
I have another
Parliament. That
question
is
for
not being
Salman,
allowed
but
to
before I
function
do that,
today.
I think are you done making your point, Salman, before you accuse me of interrupting?
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Shahzad.
I am happy to answer all questions that Salman has posed because unlike him, I'm not going to cast aspersions or run away. Salman Soros, nobody blamed the United States. We spoke about the deep state of United States on which many comments are made by many commentators and politicians in United States itself. I don't know why you are defending the deep state. Maybe you'll defend Ilhan Omar next, who was advocating independent Kashmir. But the fundamental question is that Sonia Gandhi is above scrutiny. She's a member of parliament. She happens to be on a board of an organization where she's co-president, which is advocated Azad Kashmir. Does the Congress support it? Am I not entitled to ask? If a journalist asks you that question, you are trying to go and patronize me. Secondly, I will ask you that here is the MOU signed between Congress and China. You're a political party. Why don't you put it out in the public domain? Salman, you're a member of the Congress. Have you seen the provisions of this MOU? When is the last time a political
before you
party
come up with
signed
that
a
rebuttal,
MOU with
Shahzad, I'm going to, I have another question to that, and I'm
Yes.
going to quickly give the
Please.
other two gentlemen who've
Please,
been very
please.
patiently awaiting their turn.
Please.
Salman, the big
Please.
question that everybody also wants to know is what is the hang up over there in having a discussion on the floor of the House when it comes to the Soros link? Because if the Prime Minister of the country is willing to respond to the entire issue of how Samvidhan खतरे में है on Saturday. Subsequently we also know in the Rajya Sabha the Home Minister will be starting that debate. Why can't you in fact have a similar kind of a debate in one of the houses?
In fact, we should have debates on all these issues. We've been pressing for debates on all.
Absolutely.
We've been pressing.
And that's a question I'm going to take up with Shehzad also.
But they've not been allowing these discussions. And as
so, are you saying that if there is going to be a discussion on George Soros, you are willing to go ahead with it?
Wait a second. So you're saying that every time that we have been asking for it, why is Parliament blocked these days? Because the government is blocking Parliament. Because we've been asking for discussions that affect the people of this country. And what the BJP has been doing again and again is blocking those discussions. And now they have these stupid allegations about George Soros that the media channel that they were talking about, they were quoting, that media channel has basically condemned the BJP. By the way, one more thing that Shehzad did not tell you about when he talked about deep state of the United States, that the United States Embassy in New Delhi was said that they're very disappointed with what the BJP has done. The ruling party of India has basically cast aspersions on the US State Department. This is what they're doing because they're trying to protect one man and his friendship with another man.
And what gave the US State Department the authority to indict somebody from India without even consulting or informing the upper echelons of the Indian authorities?
Madam,
no, I'm sorry. That's a field I cover, Salman Soros, and that's not the right approach. Who gave the US State Department the authority to indict Gautam Adani without informing the Indian government?
Akansha, you should get your facts right. The US State Department does not indict. It's the Foreign Ministry. The indictment is by the
indictment is the issue over here. Don't try and divert the issue. The indictment was done without informing the Indian government, as has already been highlighted by the Ministry of External Affairs. Salman Soros, please verify your facts.
If you do not know the difference between
you will not listen.
And the SEC, then you should perhaps be doing some research. You cannot ask such questions.
All right,
first of all,
Shehzad, I'm giving you 30 seconds before I move to Manojit.
And I agree, Manojit has been waiting for a very long time. It is unfair to him also. Just 30 seconds. First of all, Salman is a dear friend of mine, and I would just request Salman that we can all have a debate without losing our patience or cool on anybody. Secondly, look, today when the Treasury benches demanded a discussion under 267 on George Soros and Congress links, the Congress members created a ruckus. It has been reported by PTI. Secondly, even Mr. John Brittas from the left party has suggested that let there be a discussion on George Soros. I want to ask Mr. Salman Soros whether he agrees with the left on this. And third and final point, look, Mr. Salman Soros, you come from a party which used to say foreign hand, foreign hand. In fact, you remember the conversation between Indira ji and Nixon and all the things that went around. So today are you saying that Indira ji was lying when she was saying there was foreign interference? I think you should be a little patient and answer the question. Is FDL-AP associated with Sonia ji, which has spoken about Azad Kashmir? And what is your position on it? That's my simple question from the starting of the debate. I would appreciate if you can answer that. She's a member of Parliament.
Manojit Mandal, Kirti Azad today of the Trinamool Congress has gone on record to say that it should be Mamata Banerjee who should be heading the India alliance simply because compared to Congress, which has only a 10% strike rate against the Bharatiya Janata Party, it is the TMC which is swiftly moving forward in terms of its strike rate, which is a 70%. I'd like your response.
I think we've been debating it for the last, couple of days. But I don't think that's the issue of the debate tonight. But yes, in terms of Mamata's stature, experiences, I think she's the best female politicians after Mrs. Gandhi.
Manojit, why I'm asking that question? Because this is also part of, this is also the opposition. This is the rift within the opposition that is also leading to the chaos in the parliamentary functionings. That's why I'm asking you.
The Trinamool Congress is a different political party. With the third, largest seats in the parliament and in the Rajya Sabha. Our leader is obviously Mamata Banerjee, and we all want to see her leading the country one day. So while there is a problem that Congress will see their leader leading the country. I don't understand in which context you are bringing this issue.
No, I am bringing this context because it is also feeding into the chaos that's ensuing in the parliament, because clearly the opposition's lacking a unified strategy within the parliament. You want to corner the government at the center on Manipur. Fair enough, go ahead.
To say You mean to say we are stating the obvious fact about the stature of Mamata Banerjee, thus leading to the chaos in parliament? What kind of an inference is this, madam? This
No,
is not the
that's,
question that
don't twist my words.
if
And
the parliament
okay,
can't
I'd
be
like to bring in Shekhar.
run by the treasury
Shekhar
bench.
Iyer, is there
You
a
know,
lack of strategy from
let me
the
speak at
opposition?
least. Let me complete one sentence. I go with Salman. You don't allow the others to speak opposition when
Go
it comes to
ahead,
opposition.
Manojit. I'll give you another
You
30
don't allow me
seconds.
to.
Please go
To
ahead.
run the house is the job of the treasury bench. House belongs to the opposition. It is they are responsible to run the bench, and to get rid of one issue, they are bringing in other issue where actually the real issues are being suppressed. Real issue is Manipur. Real issue is federalism. How you are blocking funds for the states which is run by which are run by the opposition leaders like in Bengal. That's the real issue. Real issue is unemployment, price rise. But you have two issues. One is Adani and the other is Soros. What the hell Soros is doing? He is funding election in America since 2011. He's even funded election of Barack Obama's re-election in 2012. So go and arrest him. They are now, this person who is president-elect is your friend. Go and talk to him. Why are you bringing this issue? He's the single man, 94 years man sitting in New York. He's threatening India's sovereignty and integrity. Then God forbid save this country.
All right, Manojit. Have you made your point?
Yes.
Are you happy? Are you satisfied?
Bring in the real issue. Manipur,
Shehzad Punawala taking that attack forward. I just have one concern, that when you compare the data in terms of parliamentary productivity, we are seeing the least productive winter session when compared to 2018. Since 2018, this has in fact been the least productive. And
for that, BJP is responsible. Treasury bench is responsible.
I'm not asking you that question, Manojit. If you listen to what the anchor is saying, perhaps you'll be able to process better. Shehzad.
Yes, first of all, I have great regard for Monojit Da, and he has rightly said that every party aspires that their leader should be the leader of the alliance, leader of the country. But Monojit Da, just 10 seconds, I want to make you hear something, please.
See, MPs are saying, even Priyanka saying that Mamata Banerjee should lead the India bloc right now. That's a good joke.
Monojit Da, when it was asked to Manikam Tagore that Mamata Didi should lead the India Alliance, Manikam Tagore said very arrogantly that it is a good joke. So he has called your party a joke. Manikam Tagore is from Congress. I am to respecting your right. You can see the sapna that Mamata Didi should lead alliance, should lead somebody, but Congress is calling you a joke. So you should take it up with Congress and don't get angry at the anchor for that. Secondly, you spoke about Manipur issue, sir. I respect that also. We had a discussion on Manipur. Then you had run out of parliament, and Manipur also, I would like to know how many of your MLAs from India Alliance took the no confidence motion in Manipur assembly. And thirdly, I want to know that today Congress had a Manipur protest in Jantar Mantar. How many of your MPs went for that, since you are so much in love with them, at least in debates, if not in parliament? And thirdly, I want to ask you, sir, Mehngai and Berozgari.
Right.
Please tell me 5 MPs of yours who have raised the issue of Mehngai, Berozgari with notices today. Just tell me 5 MPs who have done that in your party.
But I'm going to take closing thoughts from Shekhar Iyer right now. Shekhar Iyer, be it Sambhal, be it the Adani Soros issue, or even Manipur, many are saying that this is opposition's headless chicken moment. What is in fact leading to this decline in parliamentary functioning? Because for any healthy democracy to survive, it is important that there be accountability in the parliament and that there be space for healthy debates within the parliament, none of which we've seen this winter session.
Well, Akansha, I think none of these parties are willing to say all that they have to say inside parliament. The power, or what you call the capacity to listen to the opposite side and respond, is day by day eroding. And again, this problem is compounded by the fact that each political party is obsessed with some issue. Particularly, I'm talking about the opposition. Now, Rahul Gandhi believes that if he pulls down Adani, he will pull down Prime Minister Modi. And that is not something which is being shared by other opposition parties. They are exasperated by Rahul Gandhi's obsession with Adani issue. That's a fact. That is why they are not joining him. And you see, all that they are feeling, and that is not getting traction among the people. You are seeing election after election. People are concerned with their own problems. Now, well,
Shekhar, that's why I want to quickly bring you in. When Manojit is saying that this is apart from the topic that we are debating, do you think that that concern that you are highlighting when a Samajwadi Party or a Trinamool Congress don't join in the agitation or are saying that it's time that Didi should head the alliance, can these concerns be seen in isolation?
No, they cannot be, because if the other opposition parties are seeing a better leader in Mamata Banerjee than in Rahul Gandhi, that goes to show, because this over focus on one particular issue, which is not giving traction among the people. You see, you should not mix, all the industrial groups, big industrial groups. I remember the times of 80s, when the whole thing was targeted Dhirubhai Ambani. It was believed that the Congress helped Dhirubhai Ambani to become to build his empire. See, industrialists and industrial groups go through their ups and downs. But to assume that if you target the industrialists, you can pull down the ruling party of the day is a completely false approach. Because industrialists know how to face their own problem. And when an industrial group is growing and facing international competition, it will have international rivals. So that should not be a botheration of political parties, because that is what Sharad Pawar has been advising, that do not target individual industrialists. We have never done that, because see and then there are contradictions that has been.
And I can quite agree with you, because I think the parliamentary functioning, no doubt, has taken a beating, and we cannot make this about one-upmanship where perhaps it's the ruling party versus the opposition. It cannot be just left to being a war of narratives. Many thanks to you, gentlemen, for sharing in your precious views here on Brass Tacks. And with that, we slip into a quick break. In fact, we'll be talking about Bangladesh now, and today India's Foreign Secretary Shri Vikram Misri visited Dhaka on an official visit as Government of India's first high-ranking official to visit Bangladesh since bilateral relationship nosedived in the backdrop of the arrival of the interim government back in August this year. He's called on the Chief Advisor of the interim government of Bangladesh, Dr. Mohammad Yunus, and the Foreign Affairs Advisor, Mohammad Tawheed Hussain. The Foreign Secretary also held Foreign Office consultations with his Bangladeshi counterpart, Mr. Jashimuddin. Foreign Secretary Misri has conveyed India's concerns about recent developments regarding the safety and security of minority religious communities in Bangladesh. Foreign Secretary Misri has also urged the Bangladeshi interim government to follow a constructive approach. The Foreign Office consultations held discussions on a wide range of issues that were covering political and security matters, even border management, trade, commerce and connectivity, cooperation in water, power, energy sectors, development cooperation, consular, cultural and people-to-people ties. Remember, all of this has taken a hit in the last few months. New Delhi and Dhaka have also decided to now enhance cooperation and regional integration under the BIMSTEC framework. At a time when Hindu minorities continue to be persecuted by Islamist hardliners in Bangladesh, Hindu places of worship defaced and vandalized, peaceful Hindu priests arrested on sedition charges and denied legal representation. Will the visit by the Indian Foreign Secretary arrive as a reminder to Dhaka that interim government under Yunus only stands to gain through a mutually beneficial relationship with New Delhi? Will Dhaka crack down on anti-Hindu sentiment? That's a big question we'll be asking our guests tonight.
We also discussed some regrettable incidents of attacks on cultural, religious and diplomatic properties. India desires a positive, constructive and mutually beneficial relationship with Bangladesh.
Alright, with that, let me introduce our guests today. I'm in fact joined in by Shoaib Chaudhry, who's the editor of Blitz, a renowned Bangladeshi newspaper. I'm also joined in by Satyamule, who's an advocate at the Supreme Court. Many thanks to you both for joining in. Shoaib Chaudhary, as Vikram Misri was talking about how it's time to have positive, constructive and mutually beneficial relationship when it comes to New Delhi and Dhaka. Is that even possible when the persecution of minorities is still going on?
Thank you very much, Akanksha ji. In my personal opinion, this government is under heavy influence of the Islamists and Jihadis and Hindu hatred, and also India hatred. So under such a situation, I don't believe that actually Muhammad Yunus is actually in control of the government. The government is controlled by some unseen element, possibly that we only know on the streets. They are these Islamic jihadis and Hindu hatred and India hatred. At the same time, Akanksha ji, if you have heard that the prominent leader of Pakistan, Muslim League Nawaz, Mr. Ishad Ahmed Khan, he told our news media yesterday, he admitted publicly that in the consignment of the goods that Pakistan is sending to Bangladesh, they are also sending weapons to, quote, liberate Bangladesh from Indian hegemony, Indian aggression, unquote. So clearly, this government is also very much inclined towards Pakistan because we understand that they removed the barrier for inspecting Pakistani ships for Bangladesh. At the same time, they have removed the provisions of security clearance to Pakistani nationals and Pakistan-born nationals anywhere in the world. So with such hostility, I personally don't believe that Muhammad Yunus is in control, and his people who are basically the driving force behind him, that they won't allow him to normalize relations with India or stop brutalities on Hindus.
All right. In fact, as I can see, Dr. Jahidul Bari, who's a political analyst, joining us live from Bangladesh. I'm in fact also joined in by strategic affairs expert Professor Brahma Chalani. Let me quickly bring in Dr. Bari. Dr. Bari, many in India, in fact, posing the question that just as we've seen Hindus being treated in Afghanistan and Pakistan, similar is the case with Bangladesh now. Many are in fact even posing the question, are Islamic nations even capable of treating their minorities well, especially when it comes to Hindus? And I'll not mince my words there.
Thank you very much for inviting me here. And I would like to admit that right now Bangladesh is not driven by any Islamist government or Islamist administration. Bangladesh is now driven by the revolutionary government, which is driven by Professor Dr. Yunus, who is a Nobel laureate. And so there is no happening here of Islamist attack or any extremism here. Everything is going good. I think some propagandas are going on outside some medias, and it is not good at all. These propagandas will just hamper the relationship between Bangladesh and India, nothing else. But Bangladesh and India are neighboring countries, very important neighbor both we are. We need to go as we were before, and we need to make our relationship more profoundly, and we need to just throw all the propagandas which is on air.
Dr. Bari, as you are calling it propaganda, I'm afraid I'll have to interrupt you there, because let me in fact bring in somebody else from Bangladesh itself, and that is Mr. Chaudhary. Mr. Chaudhary, is that true that most of this is just propaganda, mere propaganda, and that temples have not been defaced, vandalized, the crown of Jeshwareshwari temple not stolen, Hindus not lynched overnight? Is that propaganda?
Even the press secretary of Muhammad Yunus, Shafiqul Alam, he publicly told the media that yes, violence is going on, but this is not violence on Hindus. This is a political violence. Does that mean that they are legalizing political violence? He has admitted
Mr. Chaudhary, I want to admit that at the Rafiqul Islam said it was violence not massively occurring. It was violence in some areas occurring, tiny violences,
in that case, you don't understand English. Try to read what you have seen.
It could be some political mishaps.
Please don't try to mislead people. Read that statement. You don't know English?
No.
Dr.
Learn
Bari,
English.
the other question everybody would then ask you is what has led to the consistent decline of the Hindu population? Dr. Bari, what has led to the consistent decline of the Hindu population?
Not as Hindu population. It could be some political mishaps. It could be some political revenges, but not as the man who is Hindu. No. It is no matter who is Hindu, who is Muslim or any other religious person. It is a matter of political facts. It is a matter of, I think, some political mishaps. And it was, Sheikh Hasina, she was a dictator and she ruined out many.
And what's happening under Professor Yunus is, does that make him much of a democratic leader? That's the question I'm going to ask you in just a bit. But let me quickly bring in Professor Chalani. Professor Chalani, I think the Foreign Secretary has brought a reminder with his visit for Dhaka. And I think that reminder is how we can have that mutually beneficial relationship, something that India was tremendously taking pride in till last year. Prime Minister Modi talked about how India and Bangladesh shared that economic bilateral relationship and that India was Bangladesh's largest development partner. And that actually happened at the time when Hasina and Modi had launched 3 projects, including restarting the landmark Akhora-Agartala rail link. And this is just last year. I think New Delhi and Dhaka only stand to gain, and perhaps that's what the reminder was, apart from, of course, sharing our concerns with regards to the persecution of minorities.
You're absolutely right, Kansha. A peaceful, stable, economically prosperous Bangladesh is very much in India's interest. What is not in India's interest is a destabilized Bangladesh where there is political violence, persecution of minorities. In fact, a destabilized Bangladesh is India's geopolitical nightmare. And the Foreign Secretary carried a very positive message to Dhaka. He made it clear that India wants a forward-looking, mutually beneficial relationship with Dhaka. It's willing to provide any kind of assistance that Bangladesh needs. But the problem is this, and this goes to the root of the problem that Bangladesh faces today. One government was toppled, another regime has been installed. That regime under Yunus lacks constitutional legitimacy or mandate. The 84-year-old Yunus has become little more than the civilian face of what is effectively military mullah rule in Bangladesh. The problem is compounded by the fact that Yunus refuses to offer a time frame for holding national elections. Now, without national elections, how can there be political legitimacy for any government in Bangladesh? And to make matters worse, Yunus has been trying to appease these Islamist groups and Islamist leaders. He has unbanned several Islamist groups that are linked with terrorism. He has released from jail convicted Islamist leaders. All this has emboldened the jihadists to carry out attacks on the minorities, on members of Awami League, on trying to, even on members of these other Islamic sects like the Ahmadiyas.
Professor Chalani, today itself what we are learning as we speak, the official release which has come out from Mohammed Yunus's office is talking about how they have raised the issue of India giving refuge to the ousted former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Do you think that that's now going to become a bone of contention as far as this quid pro quo is concerned?
Akansha, look at the irony of ironies. The unconstitutionally installed Yunus regime that is overseeing rampant human rights abuses, including persecution of minorities, large-scale arbitrary arrests, and extrajudicial killings, wants India to extradite Sheikh Hasina so that it can put her on trial for abuses. Now, who sent Sheikh Hasina to India? India did not invite Bangladesh to send Sheikh Hasina to India. It was the Bangladesh military that replaced the regime in Dhaka that sent Sheikh Hasina to New Delhi giving India little choice in the matter. So look at the absurdity of the situation.
That's exactly why I want to bring in Satya Mule quickly. Satya Mule, many are also asking the question that if a Sheikh Hasina, there's a criminal case being filed against her at the ICC, then why can't India approach the ICJ when it comes to persecution of the Bangladeshi Hindus?
Definitely. In fact, India can do a lot more. United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, of which Bangladesh is a signatory, in fact, guarantees right to life, right to expression, right to religion, and all these rights of minority Hindus in Bangladesh have been or is being breached while we speak. So the United Nations and the Human Rights Council, it is a time that India can shake them up, and they have to voice out their concern. And at the same time, there can be approaches of embargoes in case Bangladesh doesn't fall in line. Having said this, there are other things in place. There is International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, of which Bangladesh is a signatory since year 2000. And in this particular covenant, Article 18, Article 27, all these articles which Bangladesh is a signatory of guarantees the basic rights. The people who are talking, they are, this particular Hindu monk has been demanding certain things, which is nothing but only freedom of expression to preach his own religion and so forth, and requesting a tribunal to try the cases against minorities or to deal with cases against minorities. And if these are the demands that are being dealt with, criminal actions of sedition, then the minorities are going to be felt that they are being persecuted. And in fact, what is now being reflected across the globe is that the separation of East Pakistan and transformation to Bangladesh is being looked upon by Pakistan till today as an unhealed wound, unhealed wound, and therefore they are funding this particular kind of a regime. And Muhammad Yunus, he being a Nobel Prize winner, must be ashamed of himself that he is being the face of this kind of activity. Having said this, yes, no doubt, if this continues, India will have to stand up and will have to raise a big global voice, and will have to rope in a lot of global partners to ensure that Bangladesh will have to fall down and follow basic human rights, and ensure that the Hindus, Jains, Buddhists, who are also equally minorities in the Bangladesh, they are guaranteed their fundamental rights.
Shoaib Chaudhary, I also want to bring you in on what is this kind of Western hypocrisy, how much of it has been left to India to tackle or New Delhi to tackle, because look at the role that even China has been playing. You've had the Chinese ambassador to Bangladesh, in fact, go and meet with Dr. Shafiqur Rahman of the Jamaat-e-Islami, where they are discussing the bilateral relationship. Look at the kind of funding that Jamaat is receiving from the Muslim Brotherhood.
Thank you, Akaksha. This is a very important question. You see, this whole thing, what happened in Bangladesh on the 5th of August was a result of the well-orchestrated work of the American deep state, the China and Pakistani eyesight. And now for China, any country that is becoming an enemy of India, it automatically becomes its friend, natural friend. That's why China has not only hosted 15 members of Jamaat-e-Islami to their country, and so Bangladesh National Party, and to my information, they are also signing kind of the MOU that China has signed with one political party in India. So China is very happy, Pakistan is very happy that Bangladesh has been pushed to the anti-India bloc, and both the countries, China and Pakistan, along with the Biden's deep state, they want to take full advantage of it.
I want to bring in Dr. Bari on that note. Dr. Bari, are you saying that this is just propaganda when Jamaat is issuing open threats that there is no right for India's Hindus to exist, or even Hindus in Bangladesh to exist? Are you saying this is just propaganda?
Can you give me any evidence that Jamaat has said that?
Yes,
Jamaat is a democratic party in Bangladesh,
you have open videos of Jamaat members making those declarations on the roads. What else?
There are many Hindu people are working in Jamaat, and why Jamaat will say that Hindu has no right in Bangladesh. No, Bangladesh maintains the right of Muslims, Hindus, Jains, and Christians, all. Bangladesh is open for all. The man who lives in Bangladesh, who is a citizen of Bangladesh, Bangladesh is for all. For him, for her. So, Jamaat or BNP or any other political party in Bangladesh, they didn't say anything against Hindu or like that. I think some misunderstanding and propagandas are going on. ISKCON and Hindu is different matter. ISKCON is an organization working here. They have to maintain and they have to go with the laws of Bangladesh. And Hindu people, they consist, I think, more than 8%.
All right, I want to give Shoaib Chaudhary 30 seconds before I take closing thoughts from Professor Chelani.
Akanksha, this is a culture of denial. They are slaughtering Hindus. They're publicly calling for slaughtering Hindus. They're publicly calling for...
Hindu people is slaughtering. You know,
they're publicly calling, chanting anti-India slogan. Even yesterday, they attempted to get out Indian High Commission. So this is the culture of denial. And what we have heard, the same culture of denial we have heard from the Hitler's Nazi forces. And the person who can talk in favor of Pakistan, the country which has slaughtered 3 million people, my people.
Dr. Bari, I think it's all out there in public domain. So let's not, in fact, even negate facts, because that's actually demeaning this show right now. I'm going to take closing thoughts from Professor Chelani. Professor Chelani, we really laud when a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine is talked about. But today I'm going to pose this question. Is it time for a two-state solution for the Hindus of Bangladesh? Who's going to look after those Hindus? Should they now be moved to the borders? Is India even in a position to look after them militarily? What are we doing? Do we have any refugee camps set out for them?
India's options are quite difficult. India has to be careful not to worsen the plight of the Hindus in Bangladesh, because there's very little that India can do other than raise its voice. It cannot internationalize this issue, because internationalizing this issue will not help. And being strident will not help, because this will further embolden the Islamists in Bangladesh to attack Hindus. So India has to be very careful, and yet it has to apply pressure on the Yunus regime to do its duty in protecting the minorities. Now, the way the Yunus government arrested this Hindu monk, there was a clear design behind this, because in the weeks preceding the arrest, Hindus had rallied in large numbers to protest the persecution under the Yunus regime. Now, by arresting this Hindu monk who was leading these protests, the Yunus regime has effectively suppressed the Hindu protests. So even internally, there is so much suppression of minorities, even to peacefully protest their persecution.
Professor Chelani, I'm afraid I'm running short of time, but the fact that the Foreign Secretary has been welcomed and his concerns have been taken up is perhaps a silent acknowledgement from Dhaka that there has been persecution of minorities which is taking place. Many thanks to you gentlemen for joining in. And coming up next, Syrian rebels have toppled the Assad regime, who's fled to Russia in a Middle East shake-up. We'll tell you all about it. In fact, Avantika Singh will bring you a report after a quick break.
आपके घर के Outgoing US President Joe Biden said that the sudden collapse of the Syrian government under Bashar al-Assad is a fundamental act of justice after decades of repression. Now, but it was also a moment of risk and uncertainty for the Middle East, is the statement that is coming in from Joe Biden. Let's listen into what exactly he had to say.
13 years of civil war in Syria, more than half a century of brutal authoritarian rule by Bashar Assad and his father before him. Rebel forces have forced Assad to resign his office and flee the country. We're not sure where he is, but there's word that he's in Moscow. At long last, the Assad regime has fallen. As we all turn to the question of what comes next, the United States will work with our partners and the stakeholders in Syria to help them seize an opportunity to manage the risks. These past few days have been historic. And, it's in the days ahead that will determine the future of this country. And we intend to approach them with strength, wisdom, and resolve. So thank you very much. God bless America, and God protect our troops. Thank you.
Akansha, we just heard the US President Joe Biden. Of course, he is outlining a multi-pronged approach when it comes to maintaining stability in Syria. But given the fact how the situation is right now, how much feasible is it to maintain stability and counter the ISIS that is there?
Right. Sherin, he's saying that first they will be engaging with Syrian groups, and that I think is going to be a very crucial point to begin with. He's also talked about how they, including within the process that's led by the United Nations to establish the transition. And perhaps you can expect the United States strike that sort of rapport is now needed with the rebel forces to explain to them what is expected out of them and how they should be going about it. They will, U.S. also ensure that they will help ensure stability in Eastern Syria, protecting the person against any threats. As you've also highlighted, is the biggest concern that they should not be merging with ISIS, because the HTS, as far as this is concerned, the entire origin of HTS begins with the Al-Qaeda. It was only an ideological difference when they sort of, when Al-Qaeda decided to break away from ISIS, so did HTS, and they say it's an ideological difference and that they are different from the ISIS. How different will be during their regime? How different will they be when they start ruling the people of Syria? It proves to be any different, especially when we see how Taliban is operating. It made a lot of differences when it goes to power again in Afghanistan. They said that we change our approach towards women, but have they really done that? So those are similar concerns which one has for HTS as well. So Joe Biden also talked about how they will support their neighbors that include Jordan, Lebanon, Iran and Israel. Remember, Lebanon and Israel are already engaged in a fight that's going on. We've seen all of last week how various violations have been taking place. Of course, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has welcomed the change, but how will this now shape up? Will Israel try and occupy this territory? That's also another question. And how vigilant can the United States be, considering Joe Biden, what he's saying is in the capacity of an outgoing president? The other big question is whether this stance will be endorsed by incoming President-elect Donald Trump, who said this is not our fight to fight. So we'll have to see. Even the United States and its stance, even though the larger West has welcomed NATO allies, many are talking about how Turkey has played a very significant role in this entire fall of Assad regime. We see how France has welcomed this entire change, as have other.
Syrian rebels seized the capital Damascus after a lightning advance that sent President Bashar al-Assad fleeing, ending a 13-year civil war and 6 decades of his family's autocratic rule. In one of the biggest turning points for the Middle East, the fall of Assad's government has finally wiped out a bastion from which Iran and Russia exercised influence across the Arab world. Assad's sudden overthrow will now allow millions of refugees scattered for more than a decade in camps across Turkey, Lebanon and Jordan to finally return home. For Syrians, it has brought a sudden, unexpected end to a war in deep freeze for years, with hundreds of thousands dead, cities pounded and an economy battered by global sanctions. So what next for Syria and its people? Well, Syria's future now hinges on uncertainty after the abrupt fall of President Bashar al-Assad's regime. Once thought to be unassailable, Assad's rule collapsed under the pressure of a rapid offensive led by a group called the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham or the HTS and supported by allied Turkish-based factions. The collapse of the government has plunged the country into deep uncertainty. Some analysts say that predicting what comes next is going to be challenging because the government's sudden demise has taken many observers who have been watching the region for years by complete surprise. The most immediate question is just how quickly the rebel groups are able to secure the capital and prevent a chaotic power vacuum and their plans after deposing al-Assad. It remains unclear just how far and how fast the rebel coalition could extend its control over the entire country, a factor critical to regaining stability, or whether they would remain united after ousting the Syrian leader. The fall of the Assad regime could pave the way for political reform, democratization and the rebuilding of a war-torn nation. With Assad gone without any resistance, there is an opportunity to create an inclusive government that represents Syria, fosters economic recovery and allows refugees and internally displaced persons to return back home. Rebel leader Abu Muhammad al-Julani has announced the formation of a transitional authority. Syrian Prime Minister Mohammed al-Jalali has also been appointed as the caretaker of state institutions. In a statement, al-Jalali expressed his willingness to cooperate with any leadership chosen by the people of Syria. But HTS's history casts a long shadow over its promises of a diplomatic and nationalist approach. There is also skepticism over the group's long-term intentions and ability to govern a fractured country. So what happens to the region? Assad's fall completely disrupts the influence of Iran and Hezbollah, which have heavily supported and depended on Assad regime. For Iran, Assad's downfall disrupts the axis of resistance that connects Tehran to Hezbollah in Lebanon through Syria. And this network has been crucial for transferring weapons and exerting influence in the region. With Hezbollah weakened from its recent conflict with Israel and Iran's proxies in Yemen and Iraq under pressure, Tehran's war strategy will now need a very different approach. Turkey's role in Assad's fall also remains ambiguous. While President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has long advocated for a diplomatic resolution to the Syrian conflict, his calls were consistently rebuffed by Assad. Turkey, which is home to over 3 million Syrian refugees, also has a vested interest in resolving the conflict to facilitate their return. For Israel, the collapse of Assad's regime represents both opportunity and risk. The fall of Iran's primary ally in Syria disrupts the supply chain to Hezbollah, but the emergence of HTS as a dominant force introduces new uncertainties. Israel has reinforced its presence along the Golan Heights, preparing for potential spillovers. What next for Bashar al-Assad? Well, the Syrian president has already fled to Russia. Citing a Kremlin source, Russian news agencies reported Assad and his family arrived in Russia and have been granted asylum. The Interfax news agency quoted the unnamed source as saying, and I quote, President Assad of Syria has arrived in Moscow. Russia has granted him and his family asylum on humanitarian grounds. While Assad's years of tyranny appears to have swiftly ended, it's still a long road ahead for Syria. Will a new and stable government be able to serve the Syrian people and lift them from years of hardships and despair?
Greenlam Laminates presents CNN News 18 Primetime Studio.
We're live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studios presented by Greenlam Laminates. Viewers, what would you call an Indian mainstream politician who actively promoted the idea of granting Kashmir independence from India? That's the question that is doing the rounds today when Parliament saw large-scale disruption after the BJP-linked former Congress President Sonia Gandhi of having connections